Hi, how you doing? It's Geoff Sinker again from ScoutGuitarLessonsOnline.com. This lesson today has been inspired by one of my students when I was running a little question and answer session. The student asked me, what is an inversion? And I thought, what a very good question. So I thought I'd put together this little lesson as really an introduction. Now I could do a really long session talking about inversions and really kind of covering all aspects. But when I thought about that, this really is a subject that needs to be taken step by step. So in this lesson, I'm really just going to look at the fundamentals of what an inversion really is, because if you can grasp that part, then the rest of the subject matter just starts to flow a little bit more easy. So what we're going to do, I am going to talk to you about inversions, so hopefully at the end of this lesson you will at least understand the principles and the ideas behind it. So you know the score, don't go away.
Preview.
Hi, welcome back. So, inversions, that's the subject of the day. But before I get into this in more detail, what I want to do is just go back a little bit and let's just talk about a chord itself, because it's essential that you do understand the basis of chord harmony and a little bit of chord theory. Now, we know that a chord is built up from notes from a scale. That has been covered numerous times and I've talked about it in previous lessons. So what I'm going to do, first of all, we're going to talk about C. Simplest, no sharps, no flats. C scale is root, then we have got a whole tone interval, another whole tone interval, half tone interval, whole, another whole, another whole, and a half. And we number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now that's also important to understand. The system says it's root, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And we number that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we've got to remember that it doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That doesn't work. It's always going to have that whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Very important. And I've got a little diagram up there that just kind of reinforces that information. Now, a chord, or as we know it as a triad, which is the basic form of a chord, 3 notes, we use the elements of the first, the third, and the fifth. And in the case of a major chord, we use the first, which is the root, then we use a major third, and then we have the fifth. Also want to point out that we have got 2 intervals there that are part of the major chord. What we have between the first and the third is a major third interval. Then from the major third to the fifth, we actually have a minor third interval. Very important, you should remember that. So we have got, in the scale of C, we have got C being the root, then we've got a major third which takes us to E, and then we have the fifth, which takes us to the G. 1, 3, 5. That is the triad. Major third followed by a minor third. So if we was to look at a chord shape, again, a lot of people play these chords, but they don't actually think about the elements of the chord. So I want you to start thinking about that as well. So if we go to our good old beginner's C major chord, sounds wonderful. We all play it, we play our little songs and we love it. Very easy chord to play. But let's look at what it's built from. We said we have a C. Well, there it is. It's in the root. Always sitting there at the bottom of the chord. Then we said the third. Well, there's the third. There's the E. Then we said we had a G, which is here, G open. Now, we can continue that down because we've got a number of strings, so we can keep on using the same notes. So that's what we do. We have a C, and then we have the E. So we've gone root, major third, fifth, root, major third. 1, 3, 5, 1, 3. All in a nice, neat order. Now, if we was to move that order around, that is what we mean by an inversion. So instead of it being 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, we could change the order, or we could just play it simply as a triad of 3 notes. So if we did want to play the C as a triad, we just play 1, 2, 3. But with an inversion, what we're going to do, we're going to change that order so we can play it as a 3, 5, 1. And that would be known as the first inversion of the C major chord. Now, it's a simple way of doing that if you think about it. We can play that inversion by just playing the D string part, the G string, and the B string, because we're getting a 3, 5, 1. So we now have a third inversion of C major, just working across them three middle strings, but the D, the G, and the B. If we wanted to play the 5, 1, 3, which would be your second inversion, all we have to do is move the strings down. So I can play the G, I can play the B, which gives us me the 1, gives us me good England, isn't it? So we've got the 5, we have got the 1, and then we've got the 3. So we've got a second inversion of the C major chord. Okay, kind of all fairly straightforward at this point. Now, because of that, we now have got an answer of how we can play inversions for all the different chords that we have. And you go, whoa, that's a big statement. But let me show you. We know, if you've followed my lessons on the cage system, and if you haven't, there's a little link above there that will take you to it, because this will help. We can play a C like that, but we know that the C is just a bar chord. And as beginners, we don't play them, but when we start getting more advanced in our playing, we start kind of moving up the tree of a guitar player, we understand that we can play C sharp, we can play D. Using that chord shape there, we have got a D chord, I move it up 2 more frets, an E chord, and an F. I can go all the way up the fretboard using that. Now, we have now got the means of playing a very simple inversion, and really you've possibly been playing this inversion many times before, but you haven't really realized it. And a lot of people who read tablature, you look at the notes, and I always say that reading tablature, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but it can give you a bit of tunnel vision, because you're just looking at the notes and you're not looking at the overall structure, what's behind it. I always call tablature, I always say it's like playing battleships. You've got your X coordinate, which is your string lines, and you've got your Y coordinate, which is the numbers. So you've got your string, or your number, bang, if there's a ship there, it sinks. But we do miss quite a bit from doing that, because if I was to play this E chord here, I have got the 1, the 3, the 5, 1, and the 3. We know that because we had it here, and the intervals never change. So if we wanted to play our first inversion of E, all I've got to do is just play them middle strings. So I've now got that 3, 5, 1. Now, how many times, and I've done it on various songs myself, have we played a chord progression, or we played a kind of a movement of a chord where it goes, kind of always hints at start me up when you play that. But there's so many playing that. So what we're really doing, we are playing this first inversion, E. And we just move that up and down the fretboard. So if we wanted to play a cool sound, we just didn't want to play our standard shape of that, say an F, I can play. And we're combining it, by the way, and we'll get into this a little bit more, with other inversions. I take my finger off. We've got another inversion there, which we'll look at very shortly. But straight away, we can see that we've got an inversion built from this C chord by just playing the D, the G, and the B string. And of course, the same applies with the shape. I can play that second inversion just by playing across here. Looks like the D chord. And you're right, you know, it's got this D chord shape. But I've got means now of playing that chord in and also seeing it as an inversion. So, you know, you think Stairway to Heaven. You've got that. We've got inversion there. He's playing that second inversion on that. You know, he's playing that through as a G. And there's many times when you play certain tracks where you're playing these little on the top three strings, but we're actually playing an inversion of just a standard chord. So that's how we deal with the C chord. Now, I did mention this chord here. That is also an inversion. Now this time I'm going to show you why you've never really played, you've kind of been playing a semi-inversion. Whenever you play, you'll begin as A chord. Standard A chord there. Now again, we said about an A chord, we've got the root, we've got the major third, and we've got the fifth. So let's look at what them notes would be. First of all, on the A chord, well, we've got an A, then we've got a major third, which would take us to C sharp, and then we've got an E, which is your fifth. And all I've done, I've just applied the intervals to do these. I've taken a major third interval here, gives me my C sharp, then I played a minor third interval to play the fifth. So we are looking for A, C sharp, and E. They are the three notes to build the triad up. So let's look at this chord that we're playing. Okay, there's our A. Great. Box ticked. We've got number one. Okay, so let's play our C sharp. No, not a C sharp, is it? That's actually the E. So that's the fifth. So what we've got there, we've got a 5 chord, power chord there. But we're not going 1, 3, 5 anymore. We're going 5. Okay, what have we got next? Well, we've got the A. So we're going 1, 5, 1. Okay. And what have we got under here? There's a C sharp. And then we've got our E. So we're playing a 1, 5, 1, 3, 5. So this beloved A chord that we've always played is partly an inversion. It's kind of built up of two elements. We've got 1 and 5 power chord, but we've also got this 5, 1, 3. So we've got the second inversion, A. So when I moved back and I went up to this one that I was playing here, we know we've got this F because we've got that inversion there. So when we move to this, we have got now an inversion of a C chord. Second inversion of a C chord. Because he's built from an A, and again, going back to your cage, there's our C in the A shape. So straight away, that C chord there, or that shape, is always giving us a second inversion of that chord. So we start to see here, or hope we start to see, that by utilizing all the shapes of the cage system, it's actually given us our inversions, which it is. That's one of the great things about using the cage system. It's already built into it for us. So I could take each of the different chords from the cage sequence, cage system, and I can use them to build inversions? Or can I? It's always a good question. We know we have got, especially if we're focusing on these middle strings with this D, G and B, we know we get an inversion here. We've got first inversion across the C chord. When we move it to the A shape, we get second inversion across them three strings. However, when we move to our G, well, it's the same. So C across D, G and B string and the G shape, so we've got A shape, G shape, give us the same inversion. Nothing's new there. But the G does give us another inversion that we can use. I've noticed bands like Whitesnake, they love to use this. Def Leppard and another one as well that do it. So we know we've got now second inversion, first inversion using these two chords. Let's look at the G and let's see what kind of useful inversions it gives us, because we know that the G shape gives us a duplicate of what we had on the A, so nothing new there. But let's have a look at the G chord. And what's the triad for the G? Well, we've got G, root note, major third, interval, B, and we got D. They are our three notes. So let's just have a look what we get here. So we've got G, that's your root, B, third, and we've got the fifth there, and we've got the first, we've got a B there, so we've got the third, and we got another G. What we have from the A, the D, and the E string, we have an inversion built in there because we've got this. So we've got the 3, the 5, and the 1. So we actually do have a second inversion, but this time on the A string for the G chord. Now, I mentioned Whitesnake to you, and one of the things that they like to do on many of the song progressions, they will take, say we've got this C chord, and we're pushing on that, they will move up to this E. So what he's doing is getting this C, but he's playing it as an inversion. So we've got our standard C there, what we'd see as a standard C. And then, he always likes to slide it in. We're moving up here, so we're playing that as a first inversion. So we get C. So there is another form of playing the chord. And they use it quite heavily in Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City. So we've got that kind of, you know, you can see it from that song and that idea, how we are using an inversion to create a different sound on our chord instead of just playing that inversion there works quite nicely. So we know we've got a G now is giving us another inversion, but this time on the A string, utilizing our our caged system. Next up, let's have a look at the E chord. Let's see what this gives us. So, E chord again, what are we looking for on our E? Well, we are going to be looking for a, obviously, root note E, major third interval there. So what we've got there is a G sharp, and then we've got a minor third interval to the fifth, which is giving us a B. So we know we've got to be looking for an E, a G sharp, and a B. Let's go and have a look at our E chord. We have got E, great. B, not great. It's the fifth. So we've got the same idea as we had here with that A chord, is giving us a 1-5. This one is giving us a 1-5 again, which of course we all know gives us that beloved power chord. Next in, we've got our E. Okay, back on track, there's 1. Next, G sharp, right, looking good. So we got 1, 3, and then we've got the Bs. So across here, from the D, G and B string again, we have got a 1, 3, 5. So that is our chord. The other bits are just kind of building up the chord round us. And it also means that because we've got this 1, 3, 5 here, we can actually play. We've got another inversion from the G. We've got our first inversion down there going to 3, 5, 1. So again, that can be used and does get used. Let's have a look at some examples, or let's have a look at a example, should I say, of how we have used these inversions in songs that we probably played a long time. We probably just never realised what we're doing on it, in that sense, in the early stages. We think of Crazy Train. What are we doing there? Well, we have got this shape here, what we're playing across 7, 6, 5, which is an A, but we're only playing these middle strings because we're pedaling on the A string to give me that A, so we've got an A chord because he's based around that, the E shape, but playing 1, 3, 5. Then we drop down to this shape, which is actually that shape that we used in the C. So the chord that we play from the A is actually an E, but we're using first inversion. Then we move it down 2 frets, we're in the same. So if that was an E, that's got to be a D. And then our final chord is going to second inversion, A. So it's A, first inversion E, first inversion D, second inversion of the A. Oh, we've all played Crazy Train before. I'm sure a lot of you haven't really thought about what you're doing, but you're already in the world of inversions because we're just isolating the chord but playing them in a different order. Final one that gets that we can use, and we've kind of looked at this before, and it can be seen also as kind of crossing over between the C chords, which is the D. We've got a D here. Let's just look at this again. What have we got in D major? Well, D major is D. We should then be looking for the major third, F sharp, and then we've got an A. So let's see what we've got. D, okay? Next, A. So we're on the 5 again. So 1, 5. What have we got here? D. What is the next one? Well, that's got to be, if we didn't have it, it wouldn't be a D chord. That's your major third, that's your F sharp. So we've got a 5, 1, 3 there. We got an inversion there, which what we said when we had the C. So the D and the C are kind of crossing over. So D and C shape kind of share a lot of similarities when it comes to inversions and looking at inversions. And then we also know that the C and the A shape and the G shape share. But we do have enough different variations that we can use to play our inversions across the guitar. Because all we have to do is just think about the different positions that we've got and the order that we're playing them in. Each one of them is giving us a different set of notes. But what really you need to do to help you with this is when you look at a chord, is start to identify the notes and in the sequence they're in. Don't just look at a chord and play it. Just start looking. 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 1. Start to get comfortable with that, because then you'll be able to spot your inversions that you can use. And that will help, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap this lesson up here so you can take on board what I've said and start to go through that on the fretboard itself. But what we're going to do in a future lesson is we are going to take some of them inversions and we're going to put some of the notes that would have normally been in the chord, we're going to put them in the bass. So it gives us a totally different effect on what we're just doing here. But it means that you can use them a little bit more interesting in your chord progressions. But you can experiment now and look at different songs that you've been playing, especially if you're featuring where you're just playing different parts of a song across the middle strings, and start to see what that inversion is, or even work them out for yourself. Is it just a straightforward chord, 1, 3, 5, or is it the first inversion, or is it the second inversion? And that really will help you pick up some of these ideas on how to understand what an inversion is and start to work them into your playing, which is really what this is all about. The more you understand, the more you can use it. So I hope this has started to kind of help you understand this whole kind of chapter in music when people talk about inversions. We've only looked at triads, 1, 3, 5, but of course the inversions get bigger as we add more and more notes to the chords. Once we get onto a 7th chord, we're adding a 4th note to it. So we've got different shapes of different inversions. But I don't want to jump into them at this stage. I want you to get kind of really comfortable with these 3-note triad inversions. Start to see them all around the fretboard. But remember, the big key here is to use the different shapes from the cage system, because they're there. They're sitting there ready for you to use them. So you can bring them into your playing. You don't have to play through the full chord. Everyone's saying, oh gee, that's a real nasty one. But you can bring in, by just playing it as an inversion. It's not going to change anything, you're still playing the same 3 notes, but it just adds a little bit more use for these chords for you. Well, I am going to let you go, and I'm going to let you practice this, and I'm going to let you discover all these new ideas on the guitar that you probably have been playing. And when people say inversions, you're like, oh, okay, what does that mean? And you've been using it. Well, this is Geoff Sinker from SkypeGuitarLessonsOnline.com. Glad you joined me today. I hope you've enjoyed something. You've taken something away from this lesson. If you did, subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these, and we are going to be building up this idea of the inversions. But until the next time, you take care. See you soon. Goodbye.